We don't need God to explain the origin of the universe. However, it's still possible that God is a better explanation than any of the purely physical, naturalistic ones that I was just talking about, so we should be judging God by the same standards that we judge all the other theories. In my personal opinion, the best argument on the basis of empirics in favor of the existence of God comes from the fine-tuning of physical parameters in our universe. It seems to be true that if you look around in the universe, we characterize what's going on by various numbers, the energy density on average, the expansion rate, physical parameters like the mass of the electron and so forth. It seems to be the case that if you changed many of these numbers by an appreciable amount, things would be very, very different. It is plausibly true that for many of these numbers, if you change them by an appreciable amount, life would not possibly exist. Furthermore, it seems as if some of these physical parameters are not natural. That is to say, if you just picked them from a bag, mass of the electron, energy density of empty space, expansion rate of the universe, you would get very, very different numbers than what we actually observe. So you see where the argument is going. You need certain very specific, the argument says, parameters in the universe for life to exist. These parameters don't seem to be generic. They do not seem to be what you would easily get just by randomly choosing numbers for the universe. And yet they are right there where you need them in order for life to exist. Why were we so fortunate to find ourselves in a universe that seems unnatural, but in a way that is allowing the universe to be hospitable for the existence of life? This is a very natural, sensible place to wonder whether or not there was some designing going on, whether or not God helped the universe along a little bit in picking the appropriate parameters to allow for the existence of life. The best example in my mind is the cosmological constant, the energy density of empty space, the vacuum energy. This is something that we think is not zero. When I was your age, we thought this was zero when I was in graduate school. But in 1998, we found that the universe is accelerating in a way that is exactly compatible with a small but non-zero energy density in empty space. Now, the reason why that's interesting is because you can sit down and ask yourself, if I didn't look at the universe, if I just estimated on the basis of what I know about particle physics and cosmology, what would I guess the value of the vacuum energy should be? My guess is larger than the observed value by a factor of 10 to the 120. That is to say, if it is true that we have a non-zero but small vacuum energy, we did not pick it randomly out of a hat. We think we know what the natural value would be if we did pick it randomly out of a hat. It is very, very, very different than the value we actually observe. So what kind of possibilities might help to explain this apparent fine-tuning of the parameters of nature? Well, one is that we just got lucky. It is not ever completely clear to me that asking this question is a sensible thing to do. Aren't we fortunate that the laws of nature allow us to be here asking how fortunate we are? Nevertheless, I don't find it quite plausible, or at least as a working scientist, it sounds like a cop-out to me to say, well, we just got lucky, the laws of physics allow for us to be here, isn't that nice, let's move on. Another possibility is that the parameters are not nearly as finely tuned as we think when it comes to explaining the existence of life. Maybe for very different values of the parameters, there will be other kinds of life. It is extremely presumptuous, I think, to think that we understand perfectly when life could exist. Maybe life is quite generic. And then the last two more substantive possibilities are maybe what we're seeing is a selection effect. Maybe the parameters of nature are very different from place to place. Maybe most places they are utterly inhospitable to the existence of life, but of course there's an environmental selection. We are only going to find ourselves in those regions of the universe that are hospitable to us existing, therefore we observe these finely tuned parameters. Or someone made it that way. God intervened, made the parameters because God wanted to make a universe where we could exist. What would be the point of a universe without us, after all?